with more. Our next guest, he is a hero in the eyes of many A's fans because he wrote the book Winning Fixes Everything about the Houston Astros scandal. Senior writer with The Athletic, Evan Drellich. Evan, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Let's start with that John Fisher letter. What did you think of John Fisher's letter to A's fans?
I don't see it as, what was the upside? What was the thought process there that, this is the thing that's going to finally produce that warm and loving outcome for John Fisher in a PR move? It was baffling to me. There were parts of it that were clearly kind of stretching the truth. And it's just another in a long series of missteps that his ownership group has made, that he's made.
Yeah, I really think, and I don't mean to interrupt you, Drapes. I know you got lots of questions. Evan, I think a big part of it was he just seized the opportunity to push that false narrative again that, we did all we could. I think that ultimately is why he did that.
Yeah, look, I think you can sit there and imagine that they thought, well, it's the final week. We got to say something. How do we not say something? Well, if you're going to say something, make sure it's something that's not inflammatory. And the problem is there's really nothing in this situation that he could say that wouldn't be inflammatory. But you can imagine, you and I, the three of us could sit down and try to write a letter. I bet we could come up with a slightly better version than that one.
Drellich, what's up, man? It's your boy Drapes, man. Thanks for coming on with us. Scott Boras a couple of weeks ago talked about, Sacramento might not be up to snuff when it comes to major league facilities. And we understand that, it's a smaller ballpark. We all understand that. How much do you think that plays into the viability of baseball in Sacramento? Is that a real issue? And do you think players would push back on a playing here in Sacramento if the facilities aren't up to MLB standards?
What's up, James? Good to hear from you. The players, the union does not ultimately have the ability to say no. I mean, barring truly their health and safety being endangered, I mean, in a really demonstrable way, like, could the union then pull the players out? Yeah, but we're really not looking at that kind of situation. I think it is very possible that free agents would look at Sacramento and go, it's not really where I want to be. That's good. But again, if I saw this when I was covering the Astros going back a decade, they were a terrible team, but you know what? You throw enough money at somebody, you throw $30 million at a veteran pitcher like Scott Feldman at the time, you can sign somebody. So I think there are going to be players who will be there. It might not be the number one destination. It might be closer to the bottom of the list, but it's not as though they literally are not going to be able to sign anybody.
Evan Drellich with us from The Athletic, talking about the A's situation. Evan, one thing I have to say, A's current ownership, they're the goats of this. They're great at kicking stadium plans down the road. I mean, they're great at taking stadium plans and, that sounds great, kicking them down the road until they finally get to a point years later where either the plans have fallen apart or they just kind of quietly back out. They did it in Oakland. They may be doing it in Vegas. At what point does MLB wise up to this, especially given that this strategy may have secured them their revenue sharing extension that they just earned?
Yeah, supposedly next month is going to be a big one in terms of the A's presenting to the stadium authority in Vegas, 3 different agreements that they need to present for this thing to keep moving forward. One of the interesting things about the Sacramento deal was that it has the option to stay there for 28. It was the first time they really kind of publicly contemplated for all of us to see, well, maybe the stadium doesn't end up opening on time. At some point, the credibility of the commissioner is on the line in a pretty serious way. I think, if you're going to put all the eggs in the Las Vegas basket and then that doesn't work out, something drastic I would think would have to happen, but we're not there, right? MLB's position, the commissioner's position is that this will get done and that it will get done as of now on time, as long as they start construction April or May of next year. So we're not at that tipping point, but yeah, look, if you don't end up in Vegas, I mean, how do you ever believe a thing that comes out of Rob Manfred's mouth again? Truly.
Yeah, 100%. Evan Drellich joining us. Evan, when you look at the opportunity for the A's to move to Vegas, I understand Major League Baseball wanting the team in Vegas. Why do you think they didn't consider, let's say, expansion? Why this team do do you think Rob Manfred signed off and having them move to Vegas?
The owners like the idea of expansion because it will bring them a big check. You can charge a fee of maybe $1 billion, maybe more, when you expand the league. The position the commissioner has had, which I think is the right one, is we can't expand until we deal with what was going on with Oakland and Tampa. They both have had obviously long stadium pursuits, and Tampa's we'll see where that one goes. It seems to be making progress, but I do think it would be a mistake when you have franchises that are kind of not. I mean, look, even in Miami, they're not drawing. It's a weird choice to expand when you've got teams that are just not in a great place with their stadiums and with their attendance. And there is a pretty big disparity in baseball when it comes to the franchises that do well and those that don't.
Evan, I know this could be apples and oranges, but I'm just curious. When the pandemic forced the Blue Jays to play in Buffalo, they played at a minor league facility for an extended period. Any lessons to be learned there? You think that MLB will apply to Sacramento? Did that overall work out better than they thought? I mean, in what ways, if any, does what happened there maybe apply to the A's short-term future in Sacramento?
That's actually a good question. I should ask somebody that question directly. I think the reality is, if we didn't hear about a disaster up there, that means they did it pretty well. Right? I can't recall there being some.
I don't either. Yeah.
This is pre-lockout, and I've buried a lot of those thoughts and memories. Look, they are pretty good at putting on special events. I think they're pretty good at setting up stadiums the way they need to. From what I understand, the Players Union and the league office have actually been working pretty well together on this. If this hasn't been, some sort of throwdown fight, the Players Union will say, "Hey, we need you to adjust on this, this, and this." And I think the league is trying. I don't. There's no interest, I think, at the league to make this any worse than it has to be. It would not serve them to have a crumbling stadium or to have players melting in the heat out there. It's incumbent on them to do as much as they possibly can to try to make that a major league type experience.
Hey, Evan, I'll switch gears just a little bit. I got to get a Giants question in here. They've won 5 in a row, but not going to the postseason. What do you see what's happening with the Giants? Should there be a change in leadership? Should Farhan be out? What do you see in what's happening with the Giants?
I've known Farhan a pretty long time, and he's certainly very smart, but I also sense the impatience that exists in that market. I'm not going to call for somebody's job today at the moment, but I do think there is a reality that there's an expiration on the amount of time you get as a GM to turn things around, or as a president of baseball operations. And when people go through rebuilds, sometimes you can get longer than maybe somebody in a different market. I think Farhan will be a contributor in any organization he's in if they do move on. But it's at some point you need results. I am a believer in that.
Evan, we'll let you go on this one. There are a lot of us in town that aren't at all happy with the way this A's situation has unfolded. That said, they are, at least we think they are, coming here next year. They'll be here for a few years, it would appear. So could you just give us your unvarnished view of, I know they're outperforming expectations to a degree in the second half. What's the state of this baseball team that's headed to Sacramento next year?
I was looking at the roster the other day, and I was trying to ask myself, well, how many of these guys have I actually heard of? And I'm covering off the field stuff these days, so I'm actually not the best person for that type of stuff. But look, they didn't trade Miller at the break. They could at the deadline. They could have. I think the A's have always been scrappy and able to cobble together teams when you don't expect it. I don't know why that would change going over to Sacramento, right? They're not that many years removed from a division title, even though that was the shortened season. So I think it's a cool thing for Sacramento. Put all the rest of it aside. Yeah. You're going to have a major league team there as long as something screwy doesn't happen here. It's totally possible. There's plenty of parity in baseball. The A's absolutely at some point in those 3 to 4 years could put together an exciting team. Whether that's next year, maybe not.
Mm-hmm. Yep. A great follow on Twitter, by the way, Evan Drellich. Thank you, Evan. We appreciate it very much and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So what do you think, Drapes?
No, Evan is spot on, man. He's spot on with the way Major League Baseball has handled this. He's spot on with the way John Fisher has handled this. And, the fact that, I go back to the question I asked him, why would Major League Baseball allow this team? And I get they got to, fix the Oakland situation, the Tampa, but John Fisher shouldn't be rewarded with a new market, a growing market, a booming market. Why would Major League Baseball do that? It's frustrating.
Sometimes I wonder if maybe baseball wants the A's in Vegas more than the A's actually want to be in Vegas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they love the idea of, we got these stadium plans. Oh, this looks great. It's never going to happen. But, it just always buys them time.
Yeah.
They're experts at that.
Right. And he said, what, by April of 2025, construction got to begin. I mean, you would think it's probably a 3-year construction. And so it's interesting to see what happens here.
If they're here 4 years, can we at least get them to agree for the 4th year? You got to say you're Sacramento, right? If you're here 4 years, you got to say you're the Sacramento A's.
But then do you take that name and all that with you? And, then we have to come up with the Sacramento something's else.
They ain't going anywhere. Like Jay said, they're not going to Vegas. All right. You want to get back to that 49er conversation?
Yes, we got to.
Are you ready for 49er fans to come after you?
They don't need to. They need to go after Shanahan. Don't come after me. I just want to hear what y'all think about your squad right now.
Next on Sactown Sports.
Sacramento weather.